gracias por haber aceptado hacer esta entrevista. Entonces quería pedirte primero que nos dieras tu nombre completo, por favor.
Soy Erika Cuevas. Okay. Erika Cuevas.
Okay. Hoy es viernes 14 de noviembre del 2014. ¿Dónde naciste y creciste tú?
I was born in Stockton, California, and that's where I grew up too.
Okay. ¿Cómo fue tu niñez?
It was good. I actually, up until I'd say 6 years old, I grew up a lot with my grandparents, and that's how I know Spanish.
Okay.
But after that, I moved back to Mexico, and my grandma only came down for summers, so I have like a limited knowledge of Spanish now that I'm older.
Okay.
But I'm working with it.
Okay. So your family is from Mexico?
Mm-hmm.
From where?
Michoacán y Veracruz.
De Veracruz, okay. ¿Qué tradiciones trataron de mantener tus padres en tu vida?
I feel like a lot of the traditions they passed down were Catholic ones. I feel like I know some things, but not by name. If someone brings it up, the practice, I'll be like, oh yeah, we did that too a couple times. But I don't know things by name, other than like mariachis or quinceañeras and stuff like that at family social events. I feel like I've lost touch with the names of things.
¿Tuviste una quinceañera?
No.
¿No?
Mis primas sí, pero
mis
no.
primas sí. Okay. ¿En qué año llegaste a Ohio por primera vez?
2012.
Okay. ¿Y qué impresión tuviste de Ohio cuando llegaste?
Not a lot of diversity. Well, I mean, here, when I first came, I didn't look at Columbus or anything, or any major urban areas. So what I saw was Gambier, Ohio. So I was like, oh, I don't see a lot of people of color, or maybe I'm missing them, I don't know.
What are some of those first memories that you have of being here and sort of settling in?
My first year, I felt, I came early for a pre-orientation program where there were a lot of white students, and I was like, I picked the wrong pre-op program. I was like, I just want to go home now. It was the first week, and I was like, no, just like push yourself, talk to people. And then it became better.
Great. ¿Me puedes hablar acerca de la persona más, o una de las personas más importantes en tu vida?
Mi mamá, sí, she came to the U.S. when she was a child, like very young, when she was a toddler. She was born in Mexico, and she only spoke Spanish at home. But when she went to school, she had to learn English for herself, and I think that's partially the decision why she decided to keep me a little detached from Spanish in the house, even though she spoke it very fluently and she spoke English without an accent. But I'd say she also just instilled in me a lot of the values that I hold they're very just essential to who I am.
Do you have any siblings?
I do. I have a younger sister, not younger by that much. She's a year and a half younger. She's starting her first year in college now, and I have a little brother who's 13.
Okay. Can you tell me a little bit about what it was like growing up with them? You're the oldest sister. Can you tell me a little bit, and maybe think about some of if there's any games or traditions that your mom taught you or passed down to you that you guys sort of played or practiced?
I don't know if we played any traditional regular games. We roughed house a lot, around the house. When we did something really bad, she would say to stop in Spanish. So my grandmother, she'd be like, no te, what do you say? How to say fight? I don't even know.
No peleen.
Peleen, yeah. And we'd just look at each other and be like, ugh. So we fought a lot at my grandma's house when she would come over for the summers. But in terms of games, I'd just say regular games, hide and seek. During Christmas there'd be tamales. That's not really games, but in terms of family activities during Christmas, or really any holiday, or if there was a birthday or a celebration, the girls would always go to grandma's house first and help with the masa. But I'd also say we just have a lot of more girls in the family,
Mm-hmm.
so that became kind of tradition just for all the girls to go over early to grandma's house and help cook.
Great, great. ¿Has tenido trabajos aquí en
Oh, sí,
en
dos.
¿Cuáles son?
So I work at the Career Development Office as an intern, and I also have a research intern job with the Sociology Department.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
¿Qué haces en estos lugares?
So as an intern at the Career Development Office, I answer phones, send emails, and coordinate events that they're planning. So a lot of them just have to do with like resume building and career development.
Mm-hmm.
And as a research intern, I look at transcripts of documents, newspapers, and other types of media relating to the Black community within Ohio, specifically this area, the Knox County.
Mm-hmm.
And then I work on like geolocating where these events took place, if they're mentioned in the newspaper, things like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
You are involved with Adelante.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me about that. Why did you decide to join, and what kind of things do you like about this organization?
I joined when I was a first year. I think it's because I was looking for a sense of community within just like Latino students, and just I want to be reminded of who I am, even though I felt like I really like hadn't had a sense of it even back home. I mean, I went to school in an area that was predominantly like Hispanic and Black, but I still felt like I was also judged just for not speaking Spanish so fluently by like my Latino friends and cousins, other family members who spoke it better than I did. So I felt like I joined Adelante just to practice Spanish more, but also gain a better understanding of the culture, of like Latino culture. And I've stuck with it. Now it's my junior year, and I'm actually like president. But I feel like not having such a keen touch with the culture kind of still sometimes makes me feel like I'm partially an outsider or not totally an insider. It's difficult to explain.
From what you've seen in 2 years, right? It's like second year. What have you seen in other people? Like what does it mean to other people that join?
I feel like to them it is also just like comforting to speak Spanish with other people who do know it, and to talk about things that wouldn't be someone outside the culture may not understand. So just talking about like whether it comes to food or music, certain like artists or groups, I feel like it's just it creates comfort in the space of people who feel like they're far from home.
Tell me about your use of Spanish. If and when do you use it, and who do you use it with, and when do you not? You prefer not to.
I feel like most of the time when I'm here, even at home, I use it when I can't find a word in English to describe a certain thing. A lot of the times, even I feel like if I speak Spanish or English too often, I actually forget certain words, like what just happened right now, peleando. So I feel like a lot of the times when I am speaking Spanish, it is with Spanish-speaking people and I know they speak Spanish. And it's also just to make them feel more comfortable too, if they feel like they don't want to speak English.
Is there instances where you sort of don't want to use it, or?
I feel like the only time I don't want to speak Spanish is when I know I'm either surrounded by people who don't know it so well, or I feel like they do know it. It's like the inverse; they know it too well, and I might mess up, so I hold back.
Since you've mentioned this sort of struggle of with Spanish, can you think of a specific example of a good experience with the language, and maybe also a bad experience? So this can be in the private realm or in the public.
I actually was taking an intermediate level Spanish last year, and I feel like we had AT sessions, which is like assistant teaching groups, just to like get more practice in. We had that 3 days out of the week, And I feel like in the beginning, the first semester, a lot of people looked to me to be like, oh, I probably know the answer. And they're like, no. Most of the time I did, so it was a chance for like me to be surprised at myself at how much I really did remember. But then as it got more like difficult in the last semester, I didn't want them looking to me for help with Spanish because I felt like, oh, I actually don't know a lot of this. I'm like learning all the grammar with you. So I felt like that was both a positive experience in the sense that like I did remember and know more than I thought I did, but also like learning a lot more about grammar that I didn't have a clue about before.
From what you've seen in this town, do you see that people are, or what are some of the efforts that people making to maintaining the language? Do you feel that this area fosters that, or if also you have to look for opportunities so that you don't forget, sort of like what you just mentioned a little bit?
In terms of like this little town in particular, and actually in the entire county, I feel like I don't see a lot of like Latino or Hispanic people, and I feel like if you do want to practice Spanish and engage more in it, you do have to seek out opportunities and people, groups to engage in. I don't feel like there is a really strong effort to preserve the language or practice.
¿Hay algunas frases o dichos específicos que te gusta usar en español? Like this thing I always say in Spanish, o algo así, ¿no? O que tienen una conexión con tu familia.
I'd say a lot of the time when I'm feeling really down and out or like unmotivated, I remember my grandma's words, "Ponle muchas ganas," and I feel like those words just keep coming back to me, and I also like just say it to myself in my head when I'm feeling really unmotivated or tired. I'd say that phrase is the singular one that stands out to me.
What are your parents or your mom? What are some of the stories from her life, her childhood, or maybe even your grandmother, if you remember? What are some of the stories about when they were young that they like to tell or that you like to listen to?
I don't know if there are like a lot of positive ones I remember. I feel like a lot of them were the stories I had heard when I was younger were meant to teach me to work hard. I remember my grandma telling me about how she would like work picking onions in California, that's where we're from, and how her hands would be sore and numb after working a lot. I remember those stories from my grandmother, but I also remember my mom telling me about how my abuelo came through the Braceros program, and just about how he traveled all along the coast from Oregon to California and to work multiple jobs, you know, like migrating with the work. And in terms of like my mother's own childhood, once she was actually here, she just told me a lot about being put in a different English learners or being put in a different classroom when she couldn't speak English that fluently. And just how that influenced her decision to raise me with less Spanish.
Do your siblings speak Spanish? Or?
They do, but it's interesting. As the oldest one, I feel like I had the most exposure with my grandparents. And my sister was there too when she was younger, but she was like a baby pretty much, and she doesn't remember a whole lot of Spanish, but she has a working knowledge of it. But my younger brother, who actually was born after my grandfather passed, really doesn't know a lot. He knows a few phrases and words, but when my grandma tells him to go get a broom or something, he's like, ¿Qué es esto? I don't know. And my grandma's like, Mira, esto es. So I feel like with him we have to work a lot harder, but my sister and I are at least able to form sentences when we're talking with our grandmother. So it's interesting, there's like different degrees.
I know you're young and you just said this is your second year here, right?
Third.
Oh, third, okay, third year. But what has been the proudest moment in your life so far?
Here or just in general?
In general.
I guess I'd have to say my high school graduation, because I went to a competitive high school as a charter school, but a lot of times I felt like I'd never make it out. I feel like it was also just one of those moments where my entire family was there, pretty much, and just to feel them and see them like behind me and proud of me, I think is what makes it stand out. I feel like college graduation will like trump that, but I think that's just that moment because they knew I was headed to here, so it was like a moment of anticipation, but also pride.
And even in this 2 years that you've been here, how do you feel that Ohio has shaped you?
Before coming here, I actually never really traveled out of California. I went to like Europe for like a week, but I never really had been to this part of the country. So I just feel like it's opened my eyes to what else is out there, and just meeting different people also has just shaped how I perceive my surroundings now, and it's different. I don't want to say it's almost a different culture, but it kind of is. Coming here from the West Coast. I've also, just because this is college, I've just opened my eyes to a lot of other things too.
What has been one of the most difficult times of living here?
I'd say last year, during the winter, not just because it was a really bad winter, but I also felt really homesick last year. And I only go home about once a year, it's usually for Christmas. And one time I went home for spring break, but that was only because I had a waiver for an airline ticket. So it's hard going back only once or twice a year. I feel like when I return home, it doesn't feel the same. I don't feel like the same person. And I'm not really sure where I consider home now. I guess both places, Stockton and here. But I also just feel dislocated in that sense, like I don't know where I'm going.
From what you've learned here at the college and your various roles, what advice would you give new, especially Latinos coming to Gambia?
I'd say to definitely just seek out people who you think you'd already have something in common with. I feel like that's why a lot of first years who are anxious about preserving their sense of being Latino join Adelante, or they join Latitulia or go to Spanish tables too. We have that just to practice. But I would also just encourage them to not stick with one group of friends either. Just to explore different circles. And I wouldn't say not to come to Kenyon, but I definitely feel like when I was looking at schools, I wasn't aware of everything that was and wasn't here. And now that I've been here, I'm trying to help with the improvements, but it's a lot to take on and a lot to try to accomplish in 4 years before you leave. So.
Is there anything else that you would like to add that I haven't asked you?
I don't know. I feel like some people don't know what Cuevas means. You know, like they don't even decipher that it is a Spanish last name or a Spanish word even. But I feel like for those who do know Spanish and do know what Cuevas means, they're like I haven't had anyone go up to me and approach me just speaking Spanish. Well, actually, no, that's a lie. I have. I was in the airport. But here, I've never had that happen on campus. But I feel like just having that last name, I feel like there are already expectations for me in terms of language and culture, like just an expectation to have that knowledge. And it does make me feel like somewhat of, I don't want to say imposter, but like I would use the word outsider before. but I do feel like I'm lacking in some sense. I'm not sure if it's because I've been made to feel that way. I already have been feeling that way for such a long time. But I think that's kind of interesting. But I also feel like sometimes it's, I mean, I know I carry that identity, but at the same time I'm just like, how much right do I have to claim that if I'm not completely aware of the culture and the language? So, and it's just been something I've been thinking about.
Yeah. But you are aware of the culture.
Yeah, the culture definitely, but I feel like I have a limited knowledge of Spanish.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Erika, for this
Thank
time.
you.
Thank you for sharing with us.